reason why we do it isn't really just to bring on people that are going to be a good culture fit and that they're going to be able to do their job. Yes to all those things. But Michael, you know me, man. I care about the people that work here.
Yeah.
And if they come in here and I hire them, I am going to make every possible effort to make it work before I let somebody go.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Back to The Aging Entrepreneur with Nick and Michael Ray. Excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, the awesome part with this episode, it is episode 10.
10 for 10, right?
10 for 10.
We'll keep that an inside joke.
Well, yeah, we'll keep it inside. But, hey, 10 episodes in, guys, which is kind of crazy to think about that, because we try to do an episode a week. So we're 10 weeks into recording this right now, which is pretty awesome to think about. And I think we've touched a lot of good things. The interviews, hey, if you haven't, please go back and listen to Mia. That interview is fantastic. Actually, one of my more favorite ones I've done on other podcasts and everything, like one of my top ones for sure.
Love it so much. Mia is a good friend of ours, and she just killed it in that last episode. I was taking notes fervorously, and I think our excitement level on that episode was pretty high.
I mean, even I remember coming off of the episode, it was like, well, I feel great about life right now.
So getting into it for our episode today, it's funny. We were celebrating a milestone in the business, and we were doing it in Miami with a group of probably another 75 agencies that were there represented.
Yeah, about 75 agencies, about I think 200 plus people at that online and also in person at the conference.
Right, and during that celebration, we hit what is considered a 7-figure agency milestone. Shameless plug for 7figureagency.com.
Thanks, Josh Nelson.
Thanks, Josh Nelson. That's right. So as we hit this milestone, they did a top performers panel where they gave me the opportunity to come up and speak. And I found out later, I didn't know this at the time, but one of the things was, like, how do you maintain, and how do you grow a top performing team?
Yep. Like the hiring process and how do you find these people and all these things. But you had said something that kind of threw everybody off.
Yeah, they didn't know what to do with it.
Like, it was so funny because I remember when you told me this, I was thrown off a little. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. But now I've experienced it personally and like, okay, now I know why we do this. And, but no, everybody in the crowd's like, wait, you do what? And they all demanded an explanation of it.
And we're going to get into the details of our hiring process today.
Yeah, so obviously, if you're starting,
that's a teaser for later.
Yeah,
because I'm not going to tell you what I said until we get there. So.
Yeah, because it's funny because what he was talking about is technically the last part of the hiring process, but it's also one where we end up losing people because they didn't pass the last piece. It made it obvious, like, okay, you're great, but there's something else here that we didn't see, but now we see it.
That's right.
So
I can't wait to get to that spot. But
teaser.
There it is. There it is. But as you grow a business, as you step into an entrepreneurial lifestyle, and as you create a legitimate business, and as you grow, you're going to have to add team members. And let me just tell you this: it is very rare that you get it right the first time.
That, and then also, I think it's something. So Kim I've been brought on to our company recently. She helps in HR, and she was even thrown off by how slow we are to hire. Mm-hmm. Like, she even said, like, this takes a couple of weeks to do all this. I'm like, exactly. And she said, well, you might lose some good people. We're like, no, we're actually going to save you a headache and ourselves a headache later, because if it's the right person, it's okay for it to take a little bit of time.
Well, I remember her specifically asking me the question. She said, Nick, are you willing to lose good talent over the time it takes to do this? And I said, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Why, Michael Ray? Why am I willing to do that?
Well, I mean, bringing on good talent is one thing, but our culture is so much more than just talent.
Because our first core value is culture trumps everything, and we protect it, and we surround it, and we make sure, I mean, it's that root word, the cult and culture, right? It's a thing. We want to make sure that we're getting that right.
Yeah, and it's so, because right now, like, well, I would say we're kind of always in a hiring mode. Mm-hmm. I think we take, like, little breaks, but we essentially are hiring somebody every 3 to 4 months, or in process of hiring somebody every 3 to 4 months. And right now, it's on me not on me, but like my department is in need of some hiring right now, and we're in the process. I've already interviewed quite a few people. Like I have my folder of interviews that I've done this year, and it's just this nice long list, but it's required. And so I think bringing up today in the episode talking about hiring is like from the conference piece, like we're kind of weird apparently, to I'm in the middle of hiring right now, and it's interesting because why I've said no to certain people, and a lot of it goes back to the culture side of things. Like we're serious when we say culture trumps everything, to the point that we're not going to hire you because the culture fit actually isn't there.
Very true. But let me set the table just a little bit. So you're at a place in business, you've got customers, you're growing, and all of a sudden you need a team. You need more than you. Even if it's just one person.
You are the bottleneck.
It's more than you. That's right. That's right. There are things in your business that you may be good at, but you don't need to be doing in order to grow your business. And when I'm coaching people, even inside of the other agency groups and the masterminds that we're in, when I get a chance to do some coaching, it's often around the topic of team building. I feel like we've done a very good job of this. Not perfect, but a very good job of this. So when it comes up, one of the questions that I'm asked often is, hey, how are you growing your team? And in a word, intentionally.
Yeah. Well, and then the other part of the growing the team, like also maintaining team members, not just adding new, and keeping people involved and excited about Nick the marketer. You know,
right?
Like there's a process there, because a lot of business owners will put a number to a person and not an actual name and like who you are as a person, and they look at just the performance, and we look beyond that. Like even the interview I did today with the potential salesperson, he said, "Tell me why you love working with Nick the marketer." And I said, "Well, I got a bunch of reasons, but I can tell you one right off the bat." And I explained how the protection of our personal time is so important here, and I did not know what they even looked like coming in, but now I see what it means. And it's like, and that, like, we're so intentional about growing each other personally, and then also protecting our personal side too. And that's something that I think people forget about when they're staring at the dollar amount, but not staring at the person that's helping bring that dollar amount to the table. So,
you know, it's funny. I have a story for just about everything, and it always seems to be time sensitive, or at least relevant to what we're talking about. So when you're talking about protecting our time, which isn't about hiring and firing, but relevant anyway to the conversation, is, you know, one of our team members got COVID.
yeah.
And it happened over the weekend when I found out about it. And I tried to communicate with the team, hey, the office is closed on Monday. Do not come to the office. Nobody responded to me. Like, nobody saw it. Nobody's paying attention to it because there has been training around it.
Yeah.
If it's an emergency, we're going to find a way to get in touch with you. And
Yes.
turns out Slack is not emergency communication.
No, because because I'll be honest, when I got a text from you at 7 a.m. on a Monday, I was like, uh-oh, something must be wrong.
Right.
Because it was so left field, and I look in Slack, I was like, oh, okay, this makes total sense.
Yeah, it was important.
You were trying to stop people before they showed up at the
That's it. That's all I was trying to do. I was like, hey, we're still working, but it's not going to be at the office. You have to work remote. I have to sanitize the building. We have to at least separate physically for a season here. And we'll open back up next Monday. Everything's fine, and our team member's on the mend, and I'm happy about that. She's going to be just fine.
Yeah, that's true. That's so funny.
But I was like, you know, I've trained them well. Nobody.
Chuck,
is
when you looked
responding
at it, you're like, what that gummit?
Well, I think I even addressed it. I said something along the lines of, hey, look, you know it's rare to the point where you're not even paying attention. So if something happens where I push notifications out, because I have the ability to do that, don't ignore the notification. I'm doing it for a very specific reason.
This is weird, and there's a reason why.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so you have to have intentionality in hiring a team. All right, and for us, we've got a process, and it's somewhere in between. I don't give a crap if they have a mirror and they can fog it. We want them on the team. And Dave Ramsey, who's got this insane 6-month-long, about 20 interviews, and like it to that level of depth for their team, who keeps getting top workplace of the year and they have people lined up to work for them, even if it takes forever to get through the door.
Yeah.
And we're somewhere, I feel, in between. We have about a 5 to 6 step process.
Yeah, and it's interesting because our process in most eyes is considered kind of long.
It is.
But the reality is, when we bring on somebody, we all feel pretty good about it. Like, it's not just had to make a hire, type of thing. Like, no, like there's been seasons where we needed to make a hire or whatnot, but we did not just rush right into it. We still stuck to, this is what we're going to do. We're going to be cautious about it and still do it right. Because, I mean, we've learned is that it's a lot more expensive and a lot more time consuming to hire somebody and then have to replace them 6 months later.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, I don't care how good anybody is. They're 3 months before they're incredibly productive on a team.
Yeah, they're so, like, they can bring a lot to the table, but reality is, like, you really don't know how good or bad. They don't even know truly until about 3 to 4 months in, and then it starts to make sense. And then, or it opens up like, oh, we did not catch that at all at the start.
Yeah, there's a couple of things there. So, we call it it's been called a 90-day probationary period. Mm-hmm. You've often heard me say it's more like a 90-day honeymoon, right? You have the googly eyes. You're all excited. You're in the office. It's new. Man, nobody's ever given me a welcome box before coming into an office.
Which, by the way, welcome boxes are fantastic for employees.
Yeah, there's be an episode where we talk about what we do when somebody starts with the company that I think would just be fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's they're going to have the rose-colored glasses on, and we're treating them, and the expectations are not 100% yet on their performance. We give people time to do that. So around 90 days. Most of the walls, the best example of this would be Marcus, and I don't think he would care if I said this, but
Marcus, you don't listen to this, do you?
He's not listening anyway, so I'm not worried about it. But anyway, the walls are down, the true personality is out, and we actually know if you're going to be one. I know if you can do your job or not. Now, using Marcus as an example, yeah, he can do it. Yeah. He knows his stuff, and he's really, really good at it.
And which we'll talk about a little bit of how because he, when we hired Marcus, we had somebody else in mind.
Right.
And it did not work out. And we're glad that's how it ended up.
That's right. So, not mad at the other person, just glad for what we got.
Well, we're happy that Marcus is on the team.
It was between day 60 and day 90 where we started getting his real sarcastic, fun-loving, death water personality.
Yeah, he started loosening up, and it was pretty funny.
but it's funny, and the reason I use that, he was probably the first one to fully go through our process that we set in place that we have today.
Yeah, and I would say this too, like I would say we were in definite need. We had what he does now is paid ads, and the person there before had left, and we didn't have somebody lined up to take that over, so we had to move quickly, but we still did not just hire him in 2 interviews and done.
That's right.
It still took a process, but it all worked out. And I would say some of the best parts with what we do is that we are setting expectations super clear. There's no monkey funny business going on when you start. Because I've heard some horror stories of people, they sign off on an agreement, and they get in the first week like, I wasn't supposed to do
the whole bait and switch.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like, what am I doing? Like, what?
Well, here's a testament. I think the whole Nick the Marketer team feels about our hiring process. And again, I'm going to come back to Marcus, even though we've hired people since then. Mm-hmm. It feels like he's always been on the team.
Yeah, like there's that moment of I don't remember a time without him.
Like when were you not? Didn't that? He's like, I've only been here for 90 days.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, what do you mean? That happened last year. You were there. No, I wasn't there.
What do you mean you never? you don't know anything about the start of this account,
right? Yeah, and it's funny because when you do it right, and we're going to go through the steps. I promise. We're 15 minutes into the episode, and I haven't told you a single step yet. We are going to go through the steps, but when you go through these steps properly, hopefully, by the time they get on your team, they're going to feel like they're already part of the team.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel like they're already part of the team.
Yeah.
And the team is going to feel like they're already part of the team. Like it's the whole group knows, hey, we got the right person.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I can't imagine like hiring somebody and in a weekend the team's like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
Like, why did you think this was a good idea?
So let me reiterate that. I mean, like I feel that way about you. I feel that way about Brittany. I feel that way about Hannah. I feel that way about Marcus. I feel that way about Devin. I feel that way about Heather. I feel that way about Jackson and like everybody on
And
our
Kim.
team and Kimberly, who's our newest one. I've known her for forever. She is my sister, and she's older than me. So there you go. That being said, though, like the people that have found their way onto our team, it always starts with can you do the job, but it ends with do I want to go have Thanksgiving dinner with you? That we're not going to have Thanksgiving dinner together, but what I'm saying is like I wouldn't be upset if I had Thanksgiving dinner with these people.
Yeah, like I mean, think about this. Like, you don't want to create a work environment where nobody likes each other. They just tolerate each other and are happy the second that that person is gone for the day. Like,
That's right.
Like you don't want to create that environment, and that's completely possible if you're not paying attention. But let's get into the process.
Let's do
a
it.
little
I'm
bit.
ready. Step one.
Step one is you need to internally define what the job is.
That's right.
Like you need to have a job description out there. Guess what? There's tons of options to look at and to see what makes sense and what doesn't. Like there's no original job description anymore. Like there's different versions. Second step is you have to understand what the pay looks like. Can you handle it? Don't ever hire out of desperation hoping it will fix other things. Like if you have cash flow issues, hiring won't necessarily fix that for you.
No.
So don't hire out of desperation. Make sure you're prepared. Make sure you're also prepared that the person that you're bringing on isn't really going to produce a whole. We talked about it won't produce for a couple of months. Like they're not going to just magically be worth every penny you pay them. Like it takes time to build up to that. So that's just the preliminary to actually starting the process. If you can't, the worst thing you can do is you put out a job posting and it's super vague, has no direction, and when you interview somebody, you don't even know how to answer their questions about it because that creates confusion and expectations are just not there.
So step one is to gain clarity on exactly what the position looks like and what the position is worth.
Yep, got to do that, and that's something that even ourselves like. Just you may have a position already filled. And it's great, but doesn't necessarily mean when you hire again for that position, it's the exact same role. Like things could change, and you just didn't change it then because you didn't think you needed to. But now, either your company's grown or things have changed, and you need to adjust that role accordingly.
So I'll tell you what I do when I'm trying to get clarity on a position. One, I talk to my team. Now, if you're just now getting into this role to where you're ready to start hiring people, you're not going to have a team to talk to.
You are the team.
So I used a tool that I do recommend, and I still use it to today because, one, it protects me, right? It's called payscales.com. All right. So payscales.com allows me to put in, so we're in Birmingham, Alabama. So I can put project manager, or I can put sales representative, or I could put Facebook ad specialist. I could put website developer, whatever it is. And then I can also put the city or the region or the United States, right? Like I can put whatever I want in there, and it will let me know the average, the low end, the high end, and the median of what the pay scale is for that job based on what I'm putting in there. So if I know I'm going to be paying Birmingham prices, I'm not going to attract somebody from California because their average web developer is going to be 10 times the cost to pay California prices than it would be for a Birmingham web developer. So I have to keep those things in mind. But here's what I want to talk about. You don't change your pay based on the person. The person has to meet your pay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's funny because we've made hires where their skill set wasn't 100%, but they grew into it, and we rewarded with pay increases.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I know the pay range.
Right.
Like I know it. I know my gap.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. So that's the first step. Get that organized up front before you try to push out. Now you need to push out the actual job descriptions.
So open the job.
Yeah, open the job. Put it on your site. Well, inside of that, define your process of when you start receiving these resumes. How do you respond to them? How do you interact with them. How often are you interviewing people, that type of thing? Because the reality is, like, if there is somebody good on the table, you do want to talk to them and not accidentally miss their resume because you don't have a process in place.
That's right.
So it can be as simple as putting a simple form on your website with the job description where they can fill in their info and upload a resume to it, and it gets emailed to you. Pretty dead simple way of doing that. Or you can use an actual software to help process jobs.
You talking about like Indeed, ZipRecruiter?
Yeah, like a ZipRecruiter situation.
Remember back in the day, Monster.com?
Yeah,
Is that still a thing?
it is.
Huh.
But it's I think now I gotta go look. But like for us, like we have that. We go to Indeed, we go to LinkedIn, we go to multiple areas to submit this and get it pushed out there. And depending on the response, we may put money on top of it to be promoted and pushed out.
And this is where I like to remind Marcus that we got him on the free trial.
On the free trial on LinkedIn. By the way, like
That's funny.
LinkedIn is fantastic for finding people to hire. Like the guy I talked to today saw us on LinkedIn. So it's not like
That's my favorite platform.
it really is. Like, and they do have paid versions that do work and things like that. But ultimately, we've had very good success with LinkedIn. So props to Microsoft. They got that part figured out. But create that job post on LinkedIn. Put some money to it if you want to. Like my general philosophy, if you don't see any movement in 1 or 2 weeks on that, throw some money on top of it. And then if it's still no movement, you have the wrong job description, or there's something very turned off about what you're putting out there. And it's either scaring people or whatever.
Commission only sales?
Yeah, or I've always seen, instead of commission only sales, they say you have an unlimited earning potential.
Oh, that's a nice way of saying you're not getting paid.
Yeah. Or you like, we're not going to cap you because we're going to pay you so little, you'll never be capped.
That's right. Right.
Anyway, so yeah, keep that conscious, right? All right, so now you've pushed it out. You got it out there, and you're getting some resumes coming in. Now you got to set up your actual interview process. Now, rarely will you have one interview with someone and then you hire. You really don't want to do that. If it's just you interviewing and nobody else, there are some limitations there, but ultimately, your first interview is to get an understanding of, do they meet the basic requirements of the job? Are they able to do the work? Do they have the right skill set? Is this a waste of your time and their time? And do they understand what they're getting into? Like, you're just setting the basic expectations there, and you're looking for some responses that make sense. Like a good example for us, so like in sales right now, one of my questions in the first interview is, explain to me how you find prospects. And if I get the response of, I've never done that before, okay, well, that pretty much ends the interview there. Because in our situation, you need to know how to do that. You need to be comfortable with that in the sales side. So step one there. Now,
also, do I like you?
Yeah. Is there a vibe of like, is this like, am I comfortable talking to you, or do I feel off? Like, does it feel wrong? Like, when you have, like, how much I hate this, when you have a gut feeling, that gut's probably right.
So let's talk about that for just a second, because this is important. People are going to come to your company with different religious backgrounds.
Yeah.
They're going to come to your company with different political beliefs. Can you handle that?
Yeah.
Like, if I just said that one thing, can you handle somebody who has a different political belief than you?
Yeah, right? you have to be open to that, right? Because that's a real thing in this world, and they may be a perfect fit, but they don't fit your religion, and you don't like that. That's a problem.
Yeah, and you really need to work that out, because that's also illegal.
Yeah. Also, don't ask how old they are.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Please don't. Like, that's not supposed to happen. FYI. Right. So.
Anyway. But do you like them? Because you're going to be able to tell if somebody's combative and you're not combative, or you want a fighter and they're combative. Like, that's a good fit. These kind of things, you got to think about the rest of your team that you may have in place to move forward.
Yeah. So that's that first interview. Get some general feelings on it. First, they check the boxes. Can they do the work? Are they capable? That type of thing. And then, honestly, if the job you're hiring for requires a certain skill set that you can test against, this will be an opportunity to implement that test. Because the reality is if they say they can do it, but then you actually test them if they can do it, and they just fall on their face, well, there you go. They were either lying about it just to get the job, or they just don't know that they're not that good at the job.
Yeah, in sales, it's sell me this pen. In SEO, it's study this website, let me know what's going on with it. In pay-per-click, write me an ad.
Yeah.
You know, it could be a number of different things for you to be able to test. It could be like in Google Ads, I'm going to give you a view-only view of the back end of one of our accounts, and I want you to analyze that account. What's right? What needs help? What would you do different? I want to know. Like, I want to know if you can analyze an account.
So I think I read once Elon Musk had said that one of the favorite questions that he likes to ask in interviews is describe in detail what you love, what you do, or an example of what you do. And he said, like, if they can sit down and describe every little bit to how they do something, then you know they actually have done it.
Right.
Not just a very broad, oh, I love working on a car. No, I love doing this, and this inside, and when this happens or whatever, or ads or whatever like that. But it tells you something like, okay, you can tell they're visualizing the work that has to be done, which means they've done it before.
So I've got two of my favorite questions. Do you want them here?
Okay.
Do you want them?
I guess.
Okay. My favorite one is, what can we expect from you in the first 100 days? And that's it. Leave it. That's one of my favorite questions to ask. And they're either going to have no clue because they don't have a clear understanding of the job, or they're going to be able to tell you, hey, I'm going to come in. Actually, it's not even going to take me 100 days.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, I don't need you to map out 100 days. I want to know if you have any kind of a plan for the position that you're applying for.
Yeah.
Right? And then the other one that I like to ask, and it lets me know you on a more personal level, and there are, in my mind, wrong answers to this. So, I could be completely wrong, but last year in 2020, when the world shut down, what did you do with it?
Yeah.
You know, I want to know. Did they completely pour into their family? Awesome. Did they suck their thumb and fetal position into the couch and they were absolutely terrified? I need to know that. Because we're still in the pandemic, I need to know how they're going to react if something else happens, right? And I'm not saying you're wrong for being scared. I'm just saying you're not going to fit in here, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, that type of question there kind of defines to you, are they a self-starter? Are they willing to make adjustments to make it happen? Or are they like, well, I'm done. I can't do anything now. Like,
Yeah.
And they just check out mentally, and then you have to bring them off the floor, but then they just don't want to do anything. So that's a reality. Now, one of the questions I always ask, and I keep it like, I like super open-ended questions because I want to see how people interpret. But whenever I start an interview, on the first interview, the first question I ask is, so why are we talking right now? And
I heard you say that today.
Yeah, I just say, well, so why are we talking? Because I want to hear from them. Why did you submit the resume? What's going on in your life? Obviously, you have a current job, or you did, and they just kind of explain everything. And if I get answers like, "Well, I'm just looking for a new job," okay, you gotta give me more than that. Like, and so it's interesting because you can tell, like, yeah, let me just, they take a deep breath trying to figure out what to say. But I always like asking that first question because it defines a little bit of their intentions.
So we've clarified the job. We've opened the job posting. We've done our initial interview and a skill test. Mm-hmm. Okay, they so far they're looking pretty good. Our next step is we know what job that we're hiring for, and we typically know the type of personality that's going to be a good fit for that job. And so we use a tool called Culture Index. And
which is amazing.
It is amazing. I agree. And my buddy Trey that does it for us just rocks it, right? So the reason we use this tool, Culture Index doesn't necessarily mean they're like a culture fit for our company. It's just the name of a company. But what it does is it takes the personality traits that a job would require. For example, our project manager has to be very task-oriented, has to be very organized, has to be very comfortable in not necessarily conflict, but asking people to get things done, right? Most likely, though, even though they could be social, they're not, like, being behind a desk and doing task-oriented things is going to energize them versus that person like me, like being behind a desk for me and doing task oriented things is bamboo shoots up my fingernails. Right? So even though I can do every one of our production team things, physically I can do it, but my personality traits are going to mean that I'm going to be miserable in this job.
Yeah. Another way to put it too. So, one of the best it wasn't even advice, but it's like one of those things that you hear somebody say, like, "Wow, that's 100% true." I'll never forget that. So, the previous president of the Hoover Chamber,
Okay.
before
Hoover, Alabama.
of Hoover, Alabama.
Okay.
This is like 2017. This is pre-April and all that stuff. Anyway, he literally said, he was talking about his wife. He's like, yeah, my wife, she used to teach at UAB, was a college professor, loved teaching, but she would come home every night exhausted from teaching. And we just realized that even though she was good at it and she did enjoy it, it wore her out.
She was an introvert.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
And that's what he brought up, was because I'm a natural introvert, and but when it was part of, actually now I'm remembering the moment. So it was Leadership Hoover, and I had to present in front of everybody, and he was blown away how well I presented, and he's like, I didn't expect you to talk like that. And I said, yeah, I can do it. I actually enjoy the teaching side. And then we went into that conversation, like, but it's a little taxing,
Right.
So. But that goes back to like you may be awesome at your job, but it may be wearing you so thin where you're just barely getting off the ground every morning. Like it's just taking you out. But you're good at it, right? It doesn't mean you should be doing it, but you're good at it. But so the culture index. So my favorite part with the culture index. So that this goes into the process. So they've gotten past interview 1. They meet the basic requirements for skills. Like you're comfortable with them. It seems like it could be a potentially good fit, right? So we get them a culture index. The culture index test, I think it may take them 5-10 minutes. It's not very long. It's literally asking a series of questions in like 3 different ways. And the accuracy, they even say like it's almost impossible to cheat the test.
Right.
Like borderline, like you really can't do it. And but the results are comical because they're so pinpointing that when we come, so the second interview is, let's talk about your results and like this is how you operate, and this doesn't affect our decision making at all. It's just like this is how you're going to operate, and they're like, yeah, that's me.
Sometimes they'll talk themselves right out of the job. They're like, that's totally accurate. The thought of picking up a telephone, it weighs 1 million pounds to me, and there's no way I'm going to cold call and be successful and happy.
Yeah, or it could be like, yeah, I have some detail, but I get frustrated with it, and it's entertaining. So like I've actually never had a culture index result that was wrong.
Right. No, you're absolutely right about that. They're spot on.
And then when I was given the culture index being hired on. Well, actually, it was actor hire, I guess, because that was before we had that process.
We need to get Culture Index to sponsor our show.
Yeah, come on, Culture Index.
You're gonna have to reach out to them and get them on the podcast.
Anyway, but the funny part was literally Trey, who helps with the test, because he actually gives us like, here's the synopsis of the test. This is what's happening. This is how you interpret the test. Blah blah blah. I remember him when he got to me. He's like, you switched personalities to do something. Like
he told me not to hire you.
Yeah. Like I would not be a good fit, blah, blah, blah. And
turns out I didn't get a choice.
Fun story there. But he even said like
episode 2.
Yeah, there you go. But he even said like you literally operate outside of your normal, and you've been doing that for a long time apparently. Mm-hmm. And it was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
So, because I didn't even think about it. I was forced to do the previous company. I was like, I was forced to do this, and I just had to do it. So, it was really weird that test pulled that out, because you think you could like hide things like that, but you apparently can't. But anyway,
it's that old lie detector test, man.
So you've had that test. They've taken it. You now are sitting in an interview with them discussing it, and now you're bringing in additional people into that interview.
on our team, specifically other leadership team members.
Yeah, the office
Heads of departments.
Yeah, yeah. So like if you're hiring for sales, you're also bringing in the head of production and stuff, just so there's an opportunity for questions to be asked, and you're also seeing like how do they like is there a good interaction here? Because the reality is they got to deal with each other for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and if it's like it doesn't seem to fit well. It's not going. Nobody's going to win. You're going to have somebody upset.
So I want to add one thing to this because I think it's an important note. What you're doing in this part where you're doing the culture indexing, you're giving them kind of their personality trait that they already know about themselves, but they didn't know that I knew about that too. But then I'm bringing in, I know the personality traits of my leadership team.
Yeah.
I know them. Okay. And here's where you have to be very careful as a leader. All right. If your team doesn't have, and they won't have always the same mindset as you, it is not my job as the owner, or it's not my intention as the owner to make sure that they're a culture fit.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to be clear about that.
Culture happens when you leave the room.
Exactly. But also, I really believe that you can expand your culture.
Yeah.
Can you extend our culture without breaking it? Right?
Extend it in the right way.
Can you be a part of who we are and bring something new to the table that we don't already have? Because I don't want a bunch of little lemmings and robots running around the office.
Yeah, a bunch of yes people.
That's not what I'm looking for. I want somebody who's going to be able to do that position, and I also want somebody who's going to test the boundaries in a positive way to make us better. I'm looking for that out of a team member. All right, so we've done a culture index. What's our next step, Michael?
So we've done a culture index. We're now explaining, bringing people to the table in the next interview.
It's moving in a positive direction still.
Yep. So, and this is also where you want feedback from your other team members.
Yes.
Because, sure, you're the owner. You can make the final decision as you should. But ultimately, listen to counsel. Listen to other people.
The Bible says in the multitude of counsel there is wisdom.
Yep. So, you've done that, and seems to be all right. Everybody's like, yeah, that's pretty good. This is
the boxes are checking properly.
Yeah, and at this point, you either at this point you're going to do some proper final background checking, or you've already done this at this point. It can kind of go either way.
Yeah, for us, we kick it over to our HR and operations manager Kimberly.
Yeah,
and she does background checks.
Yeah, does some background checks on referral.
Background checks. Let me clarify that. Reference checks.
Yeah,
we don't do background checks. We do a reference check.
Right. So we check on references, make sure like this person wasn't at this company very long. Why? Like we try to figure out the truths in that, just to be cautious, right? Because sometimes you just don't know. But you've gotten to this point. Everything is checked. Everything seems right. And honestly, at this point, you haven't talked fully on detail about the financial side of it,
right?
Because you want to make sure that they're not just looking for money. Like you got to make sure they're the right fit across the board. By the way, this is how much. Like obviously, there's a range that's been presented when you did the job posting, but now let's talk hard numbers. This is how much. This is where you're setting the actual expectations of what we're going to be getting out of you and what we're going to be paying you, and this is how it's going to flow. A lot of basically every detail that you need to know to get your job moving, but you haven't been hired yet.
Right.
So we talk about the money. So you better be completely honest when you tell people the money and you have it written down on a piece of paper, because the last thing you want to do is say that and then you change your mind before they sign.
Sorry about that, Michael.
There was some flexibility in my pay for about a year, I guess.
I think we got you to the right place now.
I remember that conversation. I don't know if you're going to kill me or not, but this is what we're doing.
Hey, as fast as I humanly could, we got that fixed.
Yeah, we're all good now.
All right. So in this part of our interview process, this can be done by the phone or it can be in person, but the whole goal is to get massive amounts of clarity.
Yeah.
This is the job. This is the details of the job. These are your key results areas that you're going to be accountable for.
Yeah.
Like, we need you to be able to do this because we're a small team, and if you can't show
hide.
us results, you can't hide, one, and two, you can't stay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we're also wanting to make sure that the money is doable money, right? So here's the finances of the job. And I can't stress this enough. It's up to very little negotiation. I allow the marketplace to tell me what the job's worth, not the person.
Yeah.
And that can help people get butt hurt really quick because they think they just are the bee's knees, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they're not the bee's knees. All I'm saying is that the market says that the job is worth this much, and therefore that's what I'm willing to pay. And there's opportunity for advancement. There's opportunity for growth. There's opportunity for raises, right? All of that stuff is built into our core values. It's built into our company handbook. Like, we have a plan for advancement. But as far as coming in here, it's going to be like, here's the scale, here's your experience, here's what you're bringing to the table. Based on what the job's worth, your experience, what you're bringing to the table, I can pay this much for the job with the benefits that we offer, with the time off that we offer, with the culture that we offer. Here you go. If I were to ask you today, all that we've been through, Michael, is this something that you think you would like to move forward with, given everything that you know?
Yeah.
Perfect. Our next step, which is our final step, hey, I would like to take you and your wife and my wife, and I'd like to take you out to dinner.
Yep.
And this is where people break.
Yeah. So, and a couple of quick notes.
They're appalled, or they love it, or like you don't know what you're going to get.
Or they're scratching their head.
Yeah.
And now, when you're talking about what Nick's saying, you get them on the phone and you go through expectations and everything. That also needs to be written out into an email sent to them explaining, so it's all written down somewhere, and
Right.
it's not well, you told me this. Like, what'd the email say?
Yeah.
So there's no, because they're like, I've had some clarity where we've talked about, but when I finally sent the email and then called and said, this is what it is, and like, oh, I did not realize blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, that's why I wanted to explain everything to make sure we're on the exact same page. So they've said yes. Everybody's like, all right, like, this is literally at this point, you're ready to hire, but we had the last step.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the last step, talking about, we make the joke, it's not a spousal interview, but we just call it that.
It's my spouse interviewing your spouse. If I'm being honest with you.
But and it's so funny when we tell people spousal interview. I've literally had people say, yeah, my spouse was terrified to go to the dinner because they're going to mess up. And I said, that's not the idea.
It's not what it's for.
No, we want to clear the table of this is what's going on. What question, one, have they explained to you what they're doing? Like, do they even know you're on a job hunt right now?
So let's bring that back to the foundation. You're married.
Yeah.
You I don't get Michael Ray. I get Michael and Courtney Ray.
Yeah.
Right? And if Courtney is absolutely bat squeeze crazy, which she's not. She's awesome, by the way. Let me clarify that before I go any further. She's going to get mad at me and break my kneecaps. She's not crazy. Anyway, if she is, and she is nagging you the whole time at dinner, I'm not hiring you, bro, because you're going to bring that every single day to the office.
Yeah.
No, that's a complete sentence. Like, it's not happening.
Well, and then on the opposite side of that, so last year, it's almost been about a year since this one person I was interviewing. She made total sense on paper. She had the right, it was for a sales position, had the right connections. She was excited about it. She could not get her husband to go to dinner with us.
Yeah.
He kept I can't do it. I don't have time. And she's like, well, you know what? Maybe this isn't a good fit. Literally stopped everything right then and there, and couldn't be happier that it happened.
Oh, yeah. For her, too.
Yeah, I think she was, it almost looking back, it probably felt semi-forced, but then that final piece, when you have to involve the other person, oh, maybe it's not a good idea. Yeah, it's amazing how it solved an issue. Then we've had, I've been through quite a few of these now.
Right. It's costing me a fortune.
I make good hires.
I need you to fix your filter a little bit, okay?
All right. Well,
I'm just messing
I make good hires.
Yeah, you do.
Anyway. Now I lost my train of thought. But I remember we had another one where the guy was great. Everything seemed great and everything, and then it became super obvious. Well, even in the dinner, we could see the spouse wanted him to do what he wanted to, but you could kind of see that maybe that wasn't really true, and everything oh yeah, great, we'll talk in the next couple of days, and then I send the final, here's your offer, and he called me, he's like, I think I'm gonna pass.
Yep.
And
thank God for that spousal interview.
Right, and
that
there's
isn't a spousal interview.
Yeah, exactly. So that spousal interview, that is what caused all the commotion at the conference because people couldn't understand it.
Boy, and they're like, remind me to never go work for Nick the Marketer. I was like, the people that work here love it here. Why?
Yeah.
Because we really take every painstaking effort that we can to make sure that if you're going to come into our company, you're not going to burn it down.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
We're small enough where one person could make an impact.
And bro, I haven't done this the whole time we've been in business. And we've had people on our team that have about put us out.
Yeah.
Because of incredibly poor decision making on their part and mine. I'm the one who hired them.
Yeah.
And then pretending to know what you're doing and not, because I didn't test the skill that they told me they had. Right? And then having clients come back and tell us we're leaving because this person was an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah, that was a real thing. We actually, it's always one of those gut wrenching moments where you had somebody leave or you fired them, and then you're playing a little bit of catch up and recovery mode. So you're communicating with clients that they had interacted with or didn't work for, and then the client's like, "I'm really glad they're no longer working for you," but they never want to tell you.
That's right.
And then when you hear that, you're like, "Oh crap! Now what?"
Yep.
But then you're also like, "Well, I'm very relieved that it happened. Like we've moved on."
Right.
So, yeah, we've had those experiences, and there's a lot of making up has to happen, and then you're okay.
Yeah.
You keep moving forward. But so here we go. So we've had that spousal interview, and honestly, you are relying if you are married, you're relying just as much on your spouse to just listen and watch and understand more than you, because you've kind of in your head you've probably said, I love this person, this is fantastic, I just want this to happen, I know this is a formality, blah blah blah. And then you bring in your spouse and they're like, did you not catch this? Like, what do you mean? Well,
that happened before Marcus. Heather was like, do not hire him. What are you doing?
Yeah,
Like, no, that's a no. Here's why. And I'm happy for that dude. I'm glad he's where he is. But she rattled out 5 different things that I didn't even pick up on because of women's intuition. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, if Brittany has to go out and do a spousal interview with her husband, Steven's able to pick things up. Right, Steven's got a different viewpoint from a different perspective that he's going, hey, did you think about this?
Yeah, well, because think about it, when you're hiring, you're in a mode, not to say desperation, but in a mode of I have to fill a position, and this person does what I need them to do, and I'm now unknowingly ignoring any of the problems because we made it this far.
That's right.
And then when you bring in a fresh set of eyes, it's amazing what comes out of that. So. Yeah, there's a lot there, but think about this. This entire process, this is, for a lot of people, 1 interview hire. For us, we're essentially 3 to 4 interviews, then maybe hire. And we're completely intentional at that. Time scales, 2 to 4 weeks.
I got 4 minimum interviews and then the 2 prerequisite steps that we take too.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, it can be, it depends, Michael. It could be done in 2 weeks. Probably going to take at least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I would like for it not to take longer than 30 days.
Yep.
Because we're not trying to string people along, and some people need to get out of a bad situation or they really need a job. But why? The biggest thing I can tell you here is the why behind the what. What we do is all of this process. But the reason why we do it isn't really just to bring on people that are going to be a good culture fit and that they're going to be able to do their job. Yes to all those things. But Michael, you know me, man. I care about the people that work here.
Yeah.
And if they come in here and I hire them, I am going to make every possible effort to make it work before I let somebody go.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is somebody's life. This is somebody's financial well-being. And I tell people, I talk to you, I talk to Heather, I talk to Brittany, I talk to all of the leaders on our team, and I say, you never mess with anybody's money, anybody's spouse, or anybody's ego. Yep. You don't mess with those things. If you do, you're causing massive amounts of damage. Okay? And if you don't get your hiring process right, you're messing with one or all of those 3 areas of somebody's human psyche.
Yeah.
And it's going to cause massive damage to them. It's going to cause massive damage to the people that you have already hired, and it's going to cause massive damage to your company.
Yep. Yeah. And you have to remember, when somebody's coming to work for you and they're working, a full-time job with you, they have so much now 2/3 of their life is dedicated to you and your business, and you have to be conscious of that. Mm-hmm. Don't abuse that. And then when you're bringing on, and then also think about this, when you're bringing people into a company from all different walks of life, there will be conflicts, but you have to hire accordingly and not just hire a fire. You're just not going to hire that. Like, you're going to avoid that. So, all right, guys, this was a longer episode. We walked through some internal processes that ourselves we've been working on for, I would say, since the beginning.
Yeah, we've been we're still refining them.
We're still refining.
Our awesome operations manager, Kim, she just came in and put everything in a standard operating procedure for us, and now we can check the box that we've been saying that we're doing.
Yeah, and, and it's so funny when it's all written out, you're like, oh, yeah, I guess we do. It's like...
We do that.
Yeah, we do that. And yeah, we do that too. But no, like I said, longer episode explains everything, though. Like, no doubt, if you know someone that's struggling hiring, send them this episode and see if what we're telling is a reflection of what they're doing. And there may be a missing piece. Because I can tell you right now, if you're churning people every 3 to 6 months, your hiring process is broken.
Yep.
Because it shouldn't be happening that way.
It's not the people who are the problem.
Yeah.
It's not the people you're hiring that are the problem.
Yeah.
I dare you to do better. I dare you to get intentional about it. I dare you to step outside of your comfort zone a little bit and grab your spouse and take this new hire prospect out to dinner and see how it opens up a whole new world of opportunity for you. But Michael, what a great episode, man. I love doing these. It's 10 episodes in now of our new season and new branding and everything for it. It's growing. The podcast is growing. The audience is growing.
10 for 10.
Nothing ever grows nothing will ever grow at the rate that I want it to grow to. But here's the thing. We'll keep doing it as long as it's going to be a benefit and a blessing to the audience. So I want to thank all of our listeners out there for letting us at least get to 10. Here's to 100 more. And Michael, thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, do you have a hiring process that seems to be killing it? Email it to us. Mm-hmm. I want to, we'll be a little selfish. Maybe it's something we're missing in our process. Love to add or mix into, but I want to hear it. We're getting to the point where we're going to have sooner than later an episode with audience feedback.
That's right.
This is what people are telling us. This is the things they're wanting to hear about. We're going to talk more about that. But anyway, see you guys in the next episode, and y'all have a great week.
If this podcast inspired you to take action as an entrepreneur, we want to hear about it. Send us an email, agingentrepreneur@gmail.com.
And if you like this episode, please consider leaving us a review or 5 stars on whatever platform you're listening to.
Until then, find your dream and keep chasing it.